Welcome to Who Knows Real Estate, Episode 5, Working with a Commercial Real Estate Broker. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Jim. And in this episode, one of Charlotte's top brokers, Matt Hagler, shares his insights into the local market, how to identify trends, and how to build relationships with a commercial broker, as well as a really easy way to get pocket listings. Here it is.
Today we're welcome to have Matt Hagler with Keller Williams Commercial. It's an honor to have him. A long time that I've known him, and happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me today. It's kind of full circle. We met when you came into town, and I think Al Mike's was the spot we went to, and I'm glad it's still open and alive.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites in town. I'm yet to take Jim there, but I've told him that he's moving into the first ward, or he just moved into the fourth ward.
Yeah, all right.
So he's about to learn a lot about it.
Maybe we'll do that at about lunchtime.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
Perfect.
All right.
Perfect. Would you mind telling folks a little bit about your background and what you're up to at Keller Williams?
Sure. Keller Williams Commercial. It's one of the largest commercial firms in North America. I think it's ranked right now 17th out of all the major commercial firms. And I happen to be out of the Ballantyne office, which is out of the 790 different franchises. Our franchise is the number one franchise in all of the Keller Williams system as far as profit goes, which is the main one that you want. Yeah. You could be the fastest growing or the biggest one.
The most expenses.
The most expenses. We just want to hone in on profit. So I've been involved in commercial real estate since 2000. And I got lucky enough to start at McKee Realty Company. They brought me in from a previous sales job that I was happily staying at, but they were like, oh, come on, go to commercial real estate. And I was like, I love real estate. And so it just intrigued me. And as I learned more about it, Bill McKee, the owner there, one of the smartest guys in town, was able to bring me in. And I worked there for about 3 years. And from there, I went straight to one of my clients, which was Keller Williams at the time. And they didn't have commercial at all. So I was like, well, they don't have commercial, but they have a ton of agents and they need some leadership. So we were able to become a partner with them. And then certainly we've been growing it ever since. So, and my background is a general broker, not, some people specialize just in restaurants or hotels. I'm just a complete generalist because we have so many agents across the country that have so many different questions. I'd be able to help more as a generalist.
Yeah, and that's perfect for us because we got a lot of questions.
All right.
We expect the detailed answers on.
Yeah, I'll just scratch the surface anyway.
Can we get into a little bit about where you feel the market cycle's at currently and what your general feel is for it?
Sure. I love that question because if you ask, the top people in the world, they all kind of give you the same, little, where they think it is. And I don't think the last group that I was listening to talk to, so that we thought it would already gone down by now. So really, we just got to be honest and say we have no idea.
Yeah.
Which I think is the real answer.
Yeah.
Where do I feel it is today? I feel like we're very strong right now. Things are going great. In the office, warehouse is doing fantastic. Multifamily has always been very solid in this particular area. Since before the downturn. Where we're right now, I feel like we got probably 18 to 24 months of continued strong growth. If you look at the stuff that's under construction, there's a ton of industrial and flex under construction that I think 90% of it looks like it's speculative. That's what the market's telling you from the people who have all their money at risk. This is where we think it's going, and we think it's growing. So that continues to look positive from my standpoint.
Yeah.
Housing, of course, speaks for itself. You guys know what it's like. You guys have had your guest here, and try to find a $150,000, $200,000 house in this area without having to make 11 offers. 11 offers in the first 5 minutes.
Right.
So it's just incredibly hot as well.
Right. And what about the push on the cap rates right now?
Yeah, retail is still very strong. I think we closed one just about a year ago that was the lowest one I ever closed. I think it was 4.25.
Wow.
On Albemarle Road, of all places. It's the second strongest franchise of that type. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that which one it was.
Sure, yeah.
It was just a Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
Over off Albemarle Road. It's the second most profitable Chick-fil-A in Charlotte, right behind the university office. Which, if you've been to Park Road and you see how that one has got a line up to almost to the next intersection,
it blocks traffic.
Yeah, you would think that's got to be the most profitable one, but anyway. So cap rates for retail seem to be very stable and tight right now. Probably close to 5 cap on most national retail type, somewhere in there 5.5, sub 6. Which is really, that's when it's getting pretty tight. It's
right.
really tight. Industrial, you're seeing, 6 caps, which I think is pretty tight as well. That's been fairly stable there. I don't see that going anywhere for the next year anyway. So hopefully that continues the same. Office, you're looking at, I believe, 5.5 to 6 caps there. Depend upon A, B, or C class, of course.
Right.
Depending, is it brand new construction? Is it 30-year-old in an A location but 30-year-old building? Things like that make kind of describe what your A and C, B and C class are.
Does that teeter up and down if you're within the urban area versus the suburban area? Does it go up a little bit in the suburban area? Because
it does.
Okay.
It does. Take office for example. It's a little bit tighter market uptown, so you're going to have a higher cap rate. Your more national tenants are going to be probably uptown, but with all the banking we have here, obviously Charlotte with what's going on with BB&T merger, we're really securing ourselves as the solid number 2 in the U.S. for banking headquarters. So that's obviously going to help. Even if things went haywire and all the banks left town, we would still have a trail of probably another decade left of vendors that would service banks.
Right,
they're
fintech and
they're staying here. They'll be here forever. So I'm not worried about the stability of uptown because of too many banks, because it's more and more a national headquarters for banks and a better cost of living.
Yeah. I mean, and it's creating its own demand for other companies. You got Honeywell coming here right now.
Exactly.
Several others. So.
Yeah, Atlanta's a little bit mad at us probably right now, but that's okay.
They got plenty of others.
They've got plenty of others. Plenty of others.
They need to get some of that traffic off the road anyway.
Yeah, we'll help them out a little bit.
What upcoming opportunities do you see across the different asset classes? Do you see any being stronger in the next couple of years than others, or what do you see?
Yeah, I've seen with the affordability of houses right now, as many people can buy houses again. I guess the multifamily market is still very stable. I don't see the growth that we've had there quite as much. I see more growth right now in the industrial area, which has been kind of, in my opinion, a little bit forgotten about for a period of time, where it was there, it was always stable. But now it's the rents are really increasing. There's not as much inventory out there. I can't remember the amount of square footage. It was shocking, and I think they have like 7 million square feet under construction right now for warehouse. 90% of that I think is speculative. So if you look at office, if we have like 4 million square feet under construction right now, about half of that is right build to suit. So half of that speculative, not 90%.
Okay.
So the only group that I ever saw do that much a speculative build was Ballantyne, and of course they sold because they were able to pull off what everything that they built was occupied very quickly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's an interesting, I don't want to get too local, but that's a very interesting situation that they've got down there.
That is, yeah. Well, we've got Fortune 500 companies there, so it's local here, but it's got a much broader reach.
Right.
For sure. So as far as what I think is a good focus right now, I believe that is one of the ones that I would probably focus on right now. For a small investor like me, buying a 10,000 square foot triple net deal, it's long terms. You got 5 and 10 year leases. You don't have to worry about the maintenance on the building. You just have to make sure you've got the right lease in place, the right attorney to review it, and the right group to put the deal together.
Right.
So, I mean, that's where I would probably focus right now if I'm being asked where I'm going to put my money. I think everybody should be involved in real estate in some capacity, whether you can do it as an individual or bring some folks together. I think it's just a good way to build wealth, and that's kind of a hot spot right now, I think.
When you're looking at like a triple net lease deal with a warehouse that's smaller, how do you underwrite the quality of the tenant if it's a single tenant warehouse? Sure.
I mean, it's just like you would for anything else. It comes down to common sense in a lot of ways. I mean, you look at their books and see how profitable they are. I always I feel like my strength is knowing a lot of other people to help me along the way.
Yeah.
So I always have a good CPA that's able to advise me, a good commercial banker, a really good attorney to go along with it. People make me laugh sometimes. They're like, "Oh yeah, my next door neighbor's an attorney. I'll just use him." And he's a divorce attorney. And you're like, this guy has no idea what he's doing. It kind of makes you wary of working with people like that, and you should be wary of working with people like that. But so yeah, just putting the deal together, the common sense stuff. How long they've been in business? You check them out online. How what ratings do they have for whatever specific business they're in? Do a credit check. I'd usually go without doing the credit check, but I'll have other people along the line give me their references and so forth, and I do check those. So that's kind of what I like to do.
Yeah, I mean, you're essentially doing what the bank does.
Yeah.
Coming through their financials, making sure that, they're profitable.
Yeah, if you don't have that, and again, a good product. I mean, you don't want to. I hate to say it. This is terrible to say, but sometimes when you're dealing with a building and the best tenant you can get is doesn't produce anything, like a church, for example.
Yeah.
Then that's a kind of it lets you know where that building is in the cycle, that it's going downhill, that you can't necessarily find a tenant to make that usable. A good example would be a building that was built to, say, in NODA that had a 12 or 14 foot ceiling height. That's just not very usable today. You want to get something that has a 16, 18, 20 foot ceiling height where a business could come in there, an industrial business could make full use of that facility instead of having to store stuff outside or whatever to make it work. A lot of those buildings, though, right now, because it is NODA, they have come in and they have done site-specific rehabilitation, like 2100 North Davison Street. So they took a 10,000 square foot building beside an 8,000 square foot building. They gutted them completely and they turned them into, instead of 2 tenants, now we've got like 8 tenants.
Right.
So that's part of the cycle.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear that you can kind of scope the building itself on where the tenants are, what kind of tenants you're starting to accumulate.
Yeah, and in the neighborhood. Yeah, how's the building doing? You got to check the viability of it by who's going to be able to use it.
Right.
Yeah. So you gotta have an idea of what's going to be next for that building too. If you're buying it, who could backfill this space. I don't want to buy something that's too specific to one user, because then I'm going to have a hard time finding that special niche person to backfill the space. So something very generic, very beige, is a better bet for me if I'm looking at it for my clients or myself.
Yeah. So that kind of gets into what we want to talk about too, like trending.
Yeah.
A little bit. So if you start to see that happening, not always, but typically if you've got a part of town, a lot of the buildings might be similar. So if you start to see certain type of tenant come in, you might start to see more similar tenants coming into other buildings like that and change the scope of the neighborhood, good or bad.
Good or bad, yeah. Sometimes you have to look around the other side of the neighborhood to see what's going to come your way. It's always going to be kind of in a path. You're looking to be in a path of growth and what's coming next. So the example I just gave is certainly the easiest one, where you took a tenant who was paying $2.95 a square foot for the space because he's been there for 15 years and the owners are, now they're 60s, they're ready to retire, they're not really thinking much about it, they're not paying much attention to it. The money comes in it's triple net, so they really don't have to worry about the structure. The tenant's paying the taxes. It's really kind of forgotten about.
Yeah.
So then you get another group that's going to come in and they see development, you're in the path of growth, so they come in and say, look, the way the rents are right now, I think we can get probably 12 to 16 bucks a square foot for what you're getting $2.95 for. And that's the kind of deals you're looking for if you're looking for something like that, because it's trending towards being multi-tenant, probably like a WeWork type space,
right?
Or retail for NODA, that type area. You got to be ahead of the curve. You got to be a little bit of a pioneer.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're not going to get the returns you want if you're not a little bit of a pioneer, a little bit of a risk taker.
Yeah, I mean, the walkability factor can really change the neighborhood and the rents and whatnot. Because you talk about Davidson, there wasn't much people, walking through that area. Now you've got the Greenway, you've got a lot of more businesses that are more retail, so you're adding walkability. And then you think about light rail down on the south end.
That's right.
And that walkway Greenway along it. I mean, that's like the most traveled piece of real estate.
It's surprising if you haven't been to an area like that. You gotta just get out there and see the vibrancy that's now existing. It took 15 years to happen, so you can't come to a new area where light rail has just started and expect the exact same thing now. But you do have to plan for the future of that.
Yeah,
and we've got a few properties like that we've worked on recently. We had 7 acres that sold about a year ago on light rail on North Tryon Street. That's going to be used for affordable housing. And it's right at a lighted intersection. But this was, we got in 2 years before that to help guide the sellers to put them where they needed to be to profit the most. So you have to look ahead and see what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It does take time. And it did take a long time in the South End, but we did go through a pretty decent recession during all that
we
too.
Did,
so
but that was the
it's
time.
hard to say how long it could have taken in a good economy, right?
Yeah, there's no way to really know. But once you have that kind of infrastructure being put in, there's always the naysayers, oh, not in my backyard, I don't want that. But it benefits them so much. So you got to kind of chuckle as you hear them say, no, not in my backyard, while their property values are increasing.
Yeah.
They're benefiting from it whether they like it or not.
Well, their life's getting easier, too. They've got things moving towards them that just make their life a lot easier.
Yeah.
And if they don't like easier, then I mean, you can't stop that. It's not gonna. You just gotta relocate.
Yeah, you always have to be positive. There's always a silver lining. You just got to find it.
Right. I agree with that.
For sure. I know you do. You're always positive about stuff. Ever since I've met you, you're always seeing the upside.
You always catch me on a good day, apparently.
Yeah, that's what I'll call your wife and see what she says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've talked a little bit about trends and these opportunities. What advice would you have for folks that are trying to find deals, especially in today's market?
Yeah, be patient. You can't just jump into it. If you do, that's where you get hurt. People want to force deals to happen, and if a deal's got too many issues with it, and you try to make it work anyway, the only way you're not going to lose money is if you're buying it with other people's money.
Yeah.
And don't be too eager to push into it. You got to make more than one offer before you end up on the deal that you're looking for. You think it's just easy as you pull up to a spot and you say this is it, and you write a contract and it's over. It's nothing like that. It's so much more work. And for someone starting out, I guess I would suggest start small. Don't be in a rush. See what others have done, and just know that you're going to make mistakes. There's no way that you're not going to make mistakes. I mean, I've seen people that have decades of experience make mistakes. You never hear about when you're looking at someone who's very successful or someone you perceive to be very successful. You don't open up with your failures. It just doesn't happen. One of my mentors has done about everything you could possibly do in real estate. And when I first met him, I never heard anything about the mistakes. But the more I got to know him, he would share some of them and why and how to protect yourself from them. So that's another thing. Mentors are a huge thing. If you're going to get started in real estate, you're not going to be able to do it on your own. First, you have to get past the mental block of the first one, of course. The first one's always the hardest one. You hear that a lot in real estate, but it really is true. You just got to take the risk and do one. And then once you've done one, slowly go into the second one and then make a goal. John Hatcher was someone that I knew here locally, and he didn't know me from Adam's house cat, but he sat me down and said, Matthew, and if you know John, he's got an accent. Matthews, I want you to do one thing for me. And then he said, I want you to invest in one property a year, and that will change your life. And that it really can change your life if you take that advice and set
Absolutely.
a goal. And it doesn't have to be the same kind of real estate, although I think it should be starting out. You need to focus on whatever that is. If you're going to get into real estate for, say, flex space, then just focus on your flex space until you're comfortable that you don't need to stand on the shoulders of others to do it alone. And then you go into, maybe it's straight into warehouse from there, maybe it's a little bit of retail. I like a mixed bag myself, but I certainly didn't start out with, just getting one of each flavor.
Right.
As a generalist, I have a better overview of that, but everyone's always more successful when you focus on a niche.
Oh, absolutely. It's just easier. I mean, you get to know it as an expert,
That's right. You become the expert that you were seeking the expertise advice of others previously. Now you've earned that right to be the expert.
Yeah. You spoke, at the start of this topic about folks that jump in and make mistakes. You have any examples you can talk about? I mean, I got plenty myself and folks more recently that I've just seen some bad mistakes made from jumping in and just, hey, wanting to do it.
Yeah. There was a gentleman came up from Florida, and he was insurance guy, did a reclamation type insurance, made really good money, and he came in and said, multifamily's really hot in your market. Can you, show me where there is some? And I was like, all right, A, B, or C? He's like, I want D class. I'm like, well, okay, I'll show you some C and Ds. And he came in, and it was off Freedom. What was the other street? Glenwood Avenue.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, really kind of a risky area, to say the least. And so we bought like a 34-unit apartment complex. And then he proceeded to put them in first-class condition, Class A. I mean, granite countertops and, brand new light fixtures, stuff that I wouldn't put in my own house. I mean, that's too nice, how can you do that?
Yeah.
And he's like, I just, I really want the people to know that I care for them. I want them to stay, be long-term tenants. I'm like, that's great, but they don't have any experience with this yet. You're really going to put them in shock because they have the very base necessities now.
Yeah.
I think half of it was actually vacant because they were in such bad condition. It was over half vacant. But anyway, he came and did a first-class job against my advice and said, hey, I'm used to dealing with this group down in Florida that's even rougher than this group for sure. It's like, all right, well then, if you know what you're doing, go for it. They ended up using every rule that they could that they manipulated to their advantage to not pay rent, to...
Oh, yeah. They're professionals.
Oh, they were professionals. They really worked the system, which I hate to say it, but that's what happened in his particular situation.
Yeah.
They went from, $300 rents to $600 rents. They completely re-tenanted everything. But even at $600, I think back then that was maybe a decade ago. That was the market for that particular area. And for 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, maybe $750 or something like that.
Was that just north of 85?
It's right off 85.
Yeah, I think I remember that property.
That was a rough one, and it's rough again. But so that was a mistake he made. He didn't listen to others. He went. What he should have done was just put in just what was needed.
Keep
it simple.
Right.
And he went way beyond simple. So yes, he lost everything. He actually went to foreclosure for the 2 properties that we sold to him, or 3 properties that we sold to him, and they were all in that general area.
Yeah, I've seen guys syndicate these apartment deals, and the guys that do a good job do just what you're talking about. They go in, buy a property that's, for the most part got decent vacancy, really good vacancy, and they don't go in and try and redo the whole system. They just go in, and as folks move out, they upgrade them, moderately, and just, raise the rent
one
slowly.
at a time.
Yeah, one at a time.
And if
slowly.
the first one you don't get the rent increase, then you stop and you readjust.
Right. Yeah, you rethink the plan. But yeah, you do it slowly, and you don't want to try and take it from a C to an A. You just want to, keep people happy, raise the rent slowly, and go about it that route. So that's great advice.
Just always do the right thing, and slow and steady wins the race. It really does.
Yeah.
I've seen other guys buy apartment complexes and do just what you're talking about, and they took it from 45% occupancy to 95% occupancy within the same year and just crush it. And just because they did it the right way, by using the experience that they had and not trying to overdo it.
Yeah.
And then they take that one asset and they basically refinance that, take all the money out of that, and then go to the next one, and then the next one.
Yeah, that's how you do it.
So that's I've seen some great success stories with groups doing that.
Yeah, I think that's the rookie mistake, is always people go in and just want to overdo it. Like, well, I want to make it so I could live in here. Okay, well, are you?
Yeah.
If you're not,
then don't do that.
Yeah.
You always want to be as nice as you can to each one of your tenants, but eventually it has to be less and less personal and more have a manager in between you and there's, because it's easy to want to do too much, but still you have to, if you're going to be refinancing and pulling that money out and going to the next one, you can't keep pouring it into the original one. So
do you see guys that could have had an opportunity and then they're messing around with, like, I just ran into this the other day. There was an opportunity where a guy could have got in on an investment I was doing. It was a new construction, and he said he was interested, and then like come down to doing the deal. He's like, oh, we're opening up a restaurant, and we went over $500,000 over budget, and we've got to pay it all in cash. And I'm like, so let me get this straight. You're going to spend $500,000 extra over budget in a restaurant in cash versus something that I was going to, potentially make you 20% on. So do you see stuff like that?
Yeah, I see that a good bit. I think a lot of people have good intentions, but then they don't quite ever really want to take the risk. Not everybody's a risk taker. I mean, some people are happier working at a 9-to-5 job where they go in every day, and that's they know what their outcome is going to be no matter what. I think in real estate, you definitely have to be riskier. You don't want to be a cowboy. You don't want to go out there and just kind of,
guns blazing,
shoot from the hip. You got to really do your homework, but you can't just go in there and expect everything to work out. I think that's one of the bigger mistakes that people make is either they put their trust in the wrong area. They don't want to lose face, but at the same time, they're not involved or knowledgeable enough to get into deals with you. So I think it's a shame, but when people, if they're not directly involved in the deal, then maybe they shouldn't actually be in the deal. So the guy who spent an extra $500,000, I think he was probably too hands off to know where his money was going.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big mistake in real estate. You have to be so hands on in real estate. It can't be, hey, I'm going to give Johnny my money and he's going to make 20% on it. You got to understand what's going on, what the money's being used for, what the goal is. What's the end game? Is it a flip? Or are you putting money in for the long term? Do you want to hold it forever? Is it something that you want to see appreciate because it's in the path of growth? You gotta have a backup plan. If this tenant leaves, then who's going to backfill that space?
Yeah, how are you going to pivot? Yeah. What are my exit strategies?
Yeah, exactly. But people come into deals and they have opportunities with people with good experience like yourself, but they don't really quite have their act together enough to even get out of their own way. So you got to do your homework.
And you mentioned it earlier, I think, before we started recording, about how you've got a great network of folks that you can rely on and trust on to ask questions to. And I feel like some of these people are just out in their other endeavors that they're investing in, and don't use any of their network, or don't have a network of folks to ask, oh, I need an extra $500,000 for this project. Do you ever stop to think, like, should I ask somebody if this is a good idea?
Yeah.
should I look and see, like, where this money's going? Like, what? Yeah. So to your point, having a network of folks you can ask is just critical.
Yeah, if I didn't have that, I don't know where I would be. I have a lot of great mentors and friends and advisors that I've built for the past 20 years. And at every turn, I feel like it's just good to have folks you can bounce ideas off of, shoot holes in it, try and figure out where you can, go wrong. If the bottom falls out, what are you going to do? One of my hardest lessons in real estate that I paid a lot for, you pay for your education, you really do, was that many times you don't want to get involved in a deal if you can't carry it by yourself. You can have some great friends, advisors, not in my case, but family. They come in and they all want to get on this deal. It seems great on the surface, but everyone's just kind of high on life instead of high on the deal. Everybody just wants to. They see that potential return, but what's it going to take to get there? And then they put money into it, and then they just let it go away. And it's like an ice cube. It just sits there and melts in your hand if you're not careful. If you're put it in the freezer and tin, you can look at it there. You don't have to sit there and hold it in your hand and watch it melt away. It's just it's sad to see. But so I guess my biggest takeaway from the last downturn for me was, if you can't carry it by yourself, then don't do the deal. If you think that your partners would fold on you, so you got to have really solid folks that are go to the extra mile with you, or you're better off being 100% partner with yourself than others. So I personally believe in working with others, and you do one deal with them. If that one works out, then you go to the next one and you continue to expand that. If it doesn't work out, then you go down a different path. Let them go their way, you go yours, and don't go scorched earth over it. Their deals work out and deals don't work out. If you could have changed the outcome, then you can't blame anybody else.
Right.
So you've always got to take your own responsibility for deals. You can't put it on one person's shoulders and expect the whole thing just to work out fantastically. You got to participate. Everyone in a deal should bring something to the table, whether it's your experience in residential purchases, or whether it's if they've got maybe it's an attorney or an architect or a contractor. You want to bring people together who can bring something to the deal. Just bringing money to the deal isn't always the best thing.
No, and people pay way too much for that. I mean, people give up way too much for that guy a lot of times.
Yeah,
see that all the time.
Yeah, a little bit too much. So that was my hard knock in the downturn, was you got to be able to depend on the others. And if they walk away, then you're still on the line.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about some of the investors who were successful during the downturn? Like, what separated them, like, looking back versus the other people who were maybe a little too aggressive, too late?
Well, I think some people just, quite frankly, gave up, because I think lenders were willing to work with you, but then the other lenders were taken away. So there's you got both sides of the coin there. Some of the properties were just taken away, and you were making your payments. There's nothing that you could have done any different. You made every single payment. And then there's others where you were just too quick to walk away. So that's a tough thing to answer, because every deal is so different. But you can't give up. You'll have to always keep working. Whether it's that tenant is not quite paying enough, sometimes you have to leverage other deals to keep another deal going. Doesn't always. It's not a bed of roses. You have to figure it out as you go along in certain cases. And sometimes you got to know when to cut and say, this is going to be a bad deal. I could continue to put my money into it, and it's still just going to go away.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just got to know when to say enough is enough and walk away from a deal.
Yeah.
Depending upon what if you got your whole life tied to it. But that's part of having a good advisor is that you won't ever really put your entire life on the line for one deal. Never tie your personal residence up. I'm a believer in paying off your house if you can, and then just leaving that alone, never leveraging that. You always have that. And then there's other assets that you can easily leverage to get into other deals, to save deals that are going south.
Is there anything you would do differently in preparation if you thought there was another maybe correction coming? Is there anything you do differently to prepare?
I think we all learned a lot in that we just realized that it's the faucet that's running and things are going really well. One day it will cut off. I think we're all kind of cognizant of that now. That hey, this money flow isn't forever. What do you do when that faucet does finally shut off, and how do you prepare yourself? So you live within your means, within the investments that you have. Personally, you live within your means. don't be extravagant. If you can be, yes, it's good to get out and enjoy yourself occasionally. But I mean, you don't always have to live like you're. I guess under the microscope of Facebook or whatever, that everything in your life is perfect. Nothing out there is perfect. So, and then have some dry powder for when the deals do go south for everybody else. As tragic as it is for the person who lost the deal, it's an opportunity for the next guy. So I think you have to be ready to step in and find the right deals and be patient for when those deals. When is the best time to buy that? I mean, we had folks looking at deals. They thought, okay, 2009, now is it time to buy now? Is 2010, is it time to buy now? 2011, is it time to buy now? It's always the time to buy if the deal is right.
Yeah.
Right.
But you can't. You're never. It's like trying to time the stock market. You don't know when it's going to hit the peak and when it's going to hit the bottom. You just have to get the deal that's good for you. But to answer your question directly, is just have some money set aside to be able to capitalize on some of the deals that somebody else couldn't keep moving forward. So buy real estate when others can't afford it. Buy it from the banks or whatever, insurance companies, wherever there's an opportunity, and look at other alternative funding deals as well.
Yeah, I like that. It's always a good time to buy real estate if the deal makes sense, right?
Yeah, whether it be a downturn or the hottest part of the market.
Yeah.
You can still get in there and get some real estate. Just don't put yourself in a bad situation. Always have an exit strategy.
Yeah. Multiple if you can.
Yeah, that's right. Be the Boy Scout. Always have a backup to the backup to the backup. Don't be satisfied with just one way. But as we started earlier, I mentioned one of my mentors, but another one that got me into it when I was asked to get into commercial real estate. I knew he was in it. He had a great family. I loved how they were able to have their time together. The dad, he was always the coach for every single sport that the kids were playing. He was always there, and he was able to do that because of the lifestyle that real estate provides. You're able to work as hard as you want. You're able to pull back whenever you need to. And his name was Gary Workman, and he pulled together. He had a great network of folks. He was in charge of all the foreclosures at NCMB back in the 80s. And he went out on his own and started doing his own development. And he had partnerships that went really well. And one of his partners was Zan Law, and he knew the gentleman that I was going to work for. And I said, is this a good guy to work for? And of course, Zan said yes. And Gary Workman set all that up. And I was able to go to Gary over the years and kind of critique deals, and he would shoot holes in them, and we'd talk about them, and what particular moves I was going to make if I was leaving this company or going to that company. He was always there to talk to me about it. Gary just passed away yesterday, but I was able to spend some time with him, tell him what a difference he made in my life. So you always have to take the time to thank the people who helped you get you where you are, and it just worked out that I was fortunate enough to be able to have that a little bit extra time with him to do that. So following in his footsteps, I've been able to spend a lot of time with my family as well. So that's part of the reason I do what I do.
Yeah, that's important. That's the most important.
It is to me, yeah. And I get accused sometimes of spending too much time with my family, but I don't mind being guilty of that.
There's worse to be charged with.
That's right. I'll be guilty of that one all the time. Not bad. But mentors are so important. So if you don't have one, you're going to learn a lot harder. You're gonna go down some bad roads and not realize that you're even going down the bad road until you're in the point where it's a dead end. So get the mentors out there. There's plenty of folks out there willing to share their knowledge, and all you have to do is participate and get to know them better. So
that's great advice.
Yeah, we talked about earlier a little bit about finding deals, and I know a lot of commercial properties go through brokers. Do you have any advice on finding a great commercial broker to work with, and then also how to build that relationship?
Sure. I would say don't just go to the first person who just happens to have commercial real estate broker in their title. There's folks who specialize in stuff. I would say look at those folks who specialize if that's what you're looking for. Talk to several. Don't just talk to one or two. And sometimes in life you start out with one group, and then sometimes you migrate because they don't do what maybe you're interested in next. So you have to be willing to get to know other folks, other brokers as well. A good way to get to know them sometimes is through your financial advisor. Your financial advisor has probably worked with that person, knows that they're credible, knows that they're going to do the right thing. Your real estate attorney could also do the same thing if you don't have any connections with commercial brokers. Your commercial real estate attorney is going to say, well, I've worked with this group for years and years, and they're going to do a good job for you. So you always just want to make sure you're going to get with somebody who's going to be honest and tell you the truth about the situation. As long as the deal comes first and whatever income that broker is going to get is second, I think that's when you're really working with the right person or the right broker. Too often times it's about the money or about the competition of the deal internally or if their office. It really just needs to be about each individual deal that you're working on. If it's not, then I suggest you really reconsider who you're working with.
Do you have any examples or advice for when you know it's the wrong one?
Yeah. If they don't return your calls
obvious,
within a week or at least a day or so, then yeah, you're with the wrong person as well. They're either totally uninterested in what you guys are working on together, or their bandwidth is just way overtaxed. So yeah, responsiveness is a big one.
Yeah.
And then just time to sit down and really discuss, the deal itself, and then what comes next. There's always another deal. And I would also say, I don't know of one broker who just has one client. I'm sure they're out there. In fact, I think I might know one, but that works for a billionaire overseas. For the most part,
It's a good client.
yes. For the most part, it's brokers have multiple clients, and you can't always be there for each one. So I think it's also incumbent not only for the broker to have a good system to reach out and touch his clients, but occasionally for the clients to reach out and just say, hey, how's the market? What are you seeing? Just open conversation. What's the best deals you got going right now? Or what do you suggest I look at? What's the next big thing? And just talk to them. Whether it's once or twice a year or more often. You still need to have a relationship, because I've done deals before where it just happened to be the person in front of me that I was talking to, that we just finished another deal, and they called me to ask me a question about something. It's like, what else you have? And I'm like, well, I got this deal. I just haven't really done much work on it yet. And then it turns out to be a huge home run for that guy. You want to think that you were going to go to your best client and give it to that client, but sometimes it just happens to be the person who stayed in contact with you. Your best client may have moved on to do something else. You haven't talked to them in a year that you've done the biggest deals with over your career. So I would say just staying in constant contact is the best method to get the best deals.
Yeah.
No, that's fantastic. How can if you're newer in commercial, how can you build the credibility as a new client? How do you build that credibility with the commercial broker?
Well, so it's just about being real about what your intentions are. You can look at deals all day long. You can pencil them to death just because you wanted to look at 100 different deals. Just go into it with intentions. If you're gonna close a deal, then focus on getting that done and getting to the finish line. You got a lot of tire kickers out there, and 20 years in the business, I can pretty much tell when I talk to the person for the first time on the phone what's going to happen with that deal. And sometimes it may be short-sighted, but for the most part, I feel like my gut is all just about right on. If you're talking to someone, you can tell what they're looking for. They'll call you and try and get as much information out of you as they can for that one deal, and they just kind of disappear. So you're just experience kind of says it all. In commercial real estate, you could be working on 6 deals, and there's no way to tell which one's going to get the finish line, but you have to work them all equally the same. The same thing with your clients. You have to give them all that attention. But there's no way to tell. As much as you want to put into it and say this is the deal that's going to work for your client, there's never any guarantees. You just have to do the best job you can. There's always opportunities to do better or to do worse. You just have to continue to stay focused.
Yeah, expanding on that a little bit, you've got to expect your client to do some of the research themselves instead of laying on you to do everything for them, because I would think that would get annoying after a while if you had a client that was like, well, I like it, but what about this and what about that? And it's like, go work your network and figure it out if it's
true.
You want to help as much as you can, obviously, but
yeah,
you're not underwriting the deal for them.
Not underwriting the deal for them. You can't do from A to Z. I mean, quite frankly, it's another mentor that I had broke it down as simple as it's a matching game. You got a buyer, you got a seller, you just got to match the two together. It could be that simple. I mean, people want to make it out to be something much more complicated than that, and many deals are, believe me. But sometimes if you're out there just looking for a good investment, it could be just finding the right deal to match with your needs. So it's the matching game.
Yeah.
And fortunately, on my team, I have a master at that. He can find the match better than anybody. There'll be a piece of property I haven't thought about for 3 years, and we'll come across somebody who's got a need, and he's like, "Oh, don't forget about this one over here." And you're like, "Oh my God, I totally just completely dropped off my plate. I don't know how you remembered that." But I think having a good team to work with as well, going back to your question about how do you pick somebody.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily want to pick the one-off guy who worked completely by himself. I mean, I think it's been said that if you don't have an assistant, then you are one. And how can you be effective at being the broker and being the assistant and being the everything, the underwriter and everything else. So a good team is actually it's a necessity to have people to work with, I think. And I've always been more of a team player. But the team I have together now, we've got a great land specialist in Scott Stevens, and our master at matching the needs up for our clients, Scott Green. And then my wife works with me, keeping us all together on the right path. So she retired after 23 years at the Bank of America, and she's using her skill set to make us better than we were before.
More efficient.
I've had a lot of people ask me, what's it like working with your wife? I was like, well, I love it, but if you ask her, I don't know what she's going to say. Just don't let me be around. You'll get a real answer.
Yeah, it's chaos.
Yeah, it can be chaos at times. but I'm thankful to have the team that I have, and that's an essential part of working for your clients is having a team that works well together.
Yeah, hats off to those guys. I love them. You couldn't have a better team.
Oh man, everybody's selfless too, and which is hard to find in real estate. These guys are all selfless. They're after what's best for the client and the deal, and not for themselves. So I've seen them take some really hard knocks for themselves just to get out of the way to make it better for the client. So that's the most probably rare thing that you'll find probably in any sales position, but I would say probably definitely in this particular market.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more? I know before you mentioned sometimes being in contact is the best way to get off-market deals. Can you give any other advice for how to get pocket listings from brokers that you're building a relationship with?
Well, I mean, I have some folks who that I'm not their broker, but they'll just ask me, hey, what do you know? How can you direct me to this area? And there's, I would say talk to your financial advisor. Might be working with some folks who are aging out of a deal, and you're not going to know it. Your financial advisor is going to have connections that you don't have. Same thing with attorneys. Attorneys are always the first to know about deals when they're going south because people are trying to protect themselves. So what do? They go to their attorney, and so the attorneys are going to know what deals are going to be coming on the market as well. So you got to kind of reach out to others, not just in real estate. Sometimes the broker might be the fifth person to know about the deal. So talk to folks who are specializing in a neighborhood. If you specialize in a neighborhood, but your plate is full, you've got all you can handle. So stay with that. Talk to that person who's like they're the expert in that area. They're always willing to help. You guys are a good example of that. I mean, you're putting on podcasts where you're really helping people be informed in how not to make mistakes, and they're taking away really gold nuggets of information that they wouldn't have gotten from the guy in the cubicle beside them. They can only get it from listening to others and gaining from their experience. So does that kind of answer your question a little bit, I guess?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So on top of that, what we already talked about growing a team, but do you see investors work as a team as well? Like if you're working with a client, do they have a good team themselves, and is that important? Yeah,
that's hugely important, and usually that's the folks who have worked together before where it looks great. So it's the first deal they do together where it looks completely discombobulated, and it is. I mean, they're just getting to know each other, and they don't have a sense of security yet. So you got to be true to the people that you've done business with before and had successes with. I've seen people put together deals. I think Lester Burnett, he had a like a street cleaning. He would clean the parking lots of retail centers, back in the 80s, and that was what he was doing. And then he loved fishing, so that's what he did. He worked and he had his hobbies on the side, but he would see an opportunity, and then he put together people with the ability, the means, the money, and put together a group of investors, and then he made sure that thing was going to succeed before he put that group together financially. And then when that group succeeded, they were so willing to go to the next deal because they knew that he was going to make sure that deal succeeded. And I don't know how much he was worth when he passed, but I mean, he had stuff all over, 3 different states and, multiple generational wealth, but all started because people trusted him to make sure that deal was going to happen. And the key to it was that first deal you do with your group has got to be successful. And then you're going to have automatic players for your next deal. You put a deal together and you're not really prepared for it. You're just hoping it's going to work, and you don't have a backup plan, and they all lose money. Then you're never going to talk to them again, probably. It's going to be scorched earth between the two of you, and no one's going to be happy. So, and make sure that whoever's investing with you is not investing beyond their means. You don't want people to borrow off their kids' college funds to potentially make money. You just have to make sure that they can still sustain themselves without it. And then I think you'll probably have a less stressful partnership.
Yeah, I'm always surprised by that too, because sometimes, well, you know how this goes. You deal with folks all the time. Sometimes it's like, oh, I don't want to pinch this guy or like put him in a a bad place, and then sometimes those are the guys that have more than you ever thought about. It's crazy.
You don't ever know. You really don't.
Yeah.
And even the guys that I know are successful, I'm still surprised all the time at how much more successful they were than I ever knew that they were, and they're quiet about it. So
yeah,
you just have to be patient and work with them and learn as you go.
Do you have any advice you'd give to an investor who's buying a new asset for the first time? I know you mentioned like networking, getting to know, be an expert in it, but any specific advice you'd have?
For the first time,
Yeah.
Just know that it's not going to be perfect. That the first deal you do is probably not going to be your most successful deal. I hope that it is. I hope you've done everybody your homework and that you've done your own research and that you're completely satisfied with it. That it turns out to be a good investment for you. But don't be discouraged if your first one doesn't. I see people get discouraged sometimes because it didn't turn out to be that home run. I've got some investments that are simply paying themselves down, and folks, there's folks out there that's a bad investment just because it's paying for itself. They want 20% returns, and it'll get paid out monthly or quarterly. I've got investments where I might not, I haven't taken a dime out in 10 years, and I don't care. It's just an asset that continues. To me, it's like a little piggy bank. I mean, somebody else is filling up the piggy bank, and it's not me, and it's not my money going into it. And in 10 years, it's completely paid for. And I've got assets that I got for $100,000 that now people are giving me $400,000 offers for. And that's those ones that I haven't taken any money out of it.
Yeah.
And I don't care. It's just going to be in the path of growth. So not every deal looks the same either. You see one with fantastic returns immediately, and then you've got others that are long term. You just got to know, you got to be okay with what your investment type was. Are you okay with just getting paid when you sell it, or do you need to get paid? Do you need to have income monthly? So you got to pick your strategy and see what works for you.
Do you have any like favorite deal you've done that you can talk about?
That I can talk about.
Yeah.
Oh man, there's so many that it's too hard to pick one. I think. I mean, I wish I'd have thought about that before I came to see you guys.
We got to keep you guessing on some of this.
Yeah, definitely keep me guessing. I mean, I briefly mentioned one where a guy came in, Gary Workman, who I mentioned earlier, worked for Cinco. They developed apartments, and that Gary and I had never done a deal together, but I had somebody call me and say, I want to buy a multifamily. Well, Gary was in that group that, I'm trying to remember the name of the group now, of First Guardian Landmark, I believe it is now. They changed names years ago. Anyway, he said, call Tim. Tim will know what's going on. Well, I called Tim. Tim said, yeah, I've got this one asset. And then I put my group together with it. It was like, they said it was 60% occupied. Turned out it was like 40% occupied, I think.
It was bad.
It was bad. But the guy that I sold it to ended up filling it up very quickly and turning it and then making better deals and better deals. So it was good to see his success as he got in. That was his first foray. That particular client had started out by buying individual houses, and then he got up to like 40 houses. He's like, you know what, I need to be in multifamily now because I don't feel like driving all over town for each individual tenant. If I've got 100 tenants on one property, it's just going to be easier for me. And so he really enjoyed that, and he parlayed that into several other deals. And he helped me out on deals that came to me later. So it all kind of comes around full circle. You help others out as you can, and they'll end up helping you out. And then sometimes they go different directions, and that's okay too. So you just got to be willing to roll with the punches, as they say.
Yeah.
So that was a neat deal. There's so many more. Each deal is unique. That's one thing that I love about the business. Each deal is just so fantastically unique. The reason I got the partnership where I am is because we got a fantastic deal negotiated with our current location where we have been for since 2003, and so that led into being a partner in a deal. Just because I made sure they got the best deal they could for themselves, they said, "Hey, great, good for you," and we need that kind of advice going forward. And so that turned out to be a life-changing deal as well. So life-changing deals are awesome to remember. The little deals that was somebody else's very first foray into real estate. Those are fun to watch unfold as well. And I get the most enjoyment out of just making sure people are protected in whatever their deal they're going into. That they've got the right advisors, that they've got the right plan going into a deal. To me, that's the most fun.
Yeah, I know you've seen this before. I think it's really interesting for being a commercial real estate broker. A lot of times you will get a piece of a deal just by being the broker of it. Like you can throw your commission back into it. And I think people that aren't in that business or don't know much about it, I think that's one of the neatest things about your business.
I do love that. You don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. Just in real estate. I think you need to be in the stock market as well. But every opportunity I get to put my money back into a deal, I always will. I can't imagine a situation where I've been offered and I haven't done it. We just did one down in Plaza Midwood. Our team identified a property that was going to tax foreclosure. And it's one of those rare deals where, the equity in it was so much more than the tax. The tax was like 75. The deal was worth probably 700.
Wow.
And then, we happened to put together a deal where it worked very quickly. And then that deal was actually sold to a developer recently. And I just decided, hey, I'll just leave that in. And now it's going to be from a Class D to a Class A with basically the same dollars that I started out with. So it's pretty nice.
And you're still in it.
Still in it. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Afraid I would stay in that one. And I'm a very local broker. My mom actually grew up on a street 2 streets over from that. So it's from where that property is, where I just reinvested. So I thought that was kind of cool that you're able to be close to where some of your roots were too. So
yeah,
always fun stuff.
Yeah, it's a win-win then.
It is a win-win. That is a win-win. I'll have to actually. I haven't even told my mom yet that I did that one. I have to go back and tell her.
Yeah.
I guess we're all. Don't forget to say Happy Mother's Day, folks. So
that's right.
Call your moms this Sunday. Go ahead and order the flowers, whatever. It's maybe too late to make reservations, but try.
You're ahead of the game.
Yeah, got to be ahead of the game. That's
very
right.
organized.
Sure.
I think we should open it up now. See if there's anything you can tell us about. We're out of set questions, but we'd like to talk a little bit about what you're interested in next year, upcoming year. Are there things you're going to try and focus on? Like, I think Jim and I are always coming up with ideas and trying to focus on certain asset types or just ideas. What do you have?
Oh, what's coming up? What's on the horizon? For me this year, I'm looking at just growing my business as much as anything, preparing for other investments. I want to make sure that our team is ready to make investments together so that we can capitalize on some opportunities when they arise.
So you invest yourselves?
Yeah, invest ourselves.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think as a team we should be looking at real estate. Look at a lot of the folks in my business. They get together and pool their money and make deals that change their families' lives. I just want to be able to do that for our group so that they've got other opportunities, and that way they can have all the time that they need for their families as well. I think if I'm going to be investing in anything, if I'm looking at a particular asset, I think I'm probably going to look at flex space or small industrial buildings, 5, 10,000, 20,000 square feet. It's probably going to have my eye on for the next year or two. See what happens there. I think that's where probably the most growth potential is. There's still opportunities there where the rents are low enough now that you can re-tenant a building and get really increase the return on the investment for that particular product.
Yeah.
Office is a lot harder. You got to put a lot into it. People want first-class upfits and so forth. So I'd like to be in a situation where I have more control over it, and I think that's going to be provided by the industrial investments this year.
Well, certainly that zoning itself affords you the most flexibility of any future expansion or pivoting you want to do too, right?
That's right. It's less and less industrial zoning around town.
Yeah.
So if you have it, keep it. I've actually worked for clients before. They've come in and said, hey, they're trying to rezone my I-2 land, and is that okay? And of course, I always have to tell them, absolutely not. So I haven't made friends on certain sides of the counter on that. But, excuse me, but at the same time, you got to make sure your client's protected. So that piece of property is still standing there and still
protected.
Doing well. It's protected. Yeah, it's still I-2.
Yeah, they need your sign on that.
Yeah, no.
Protected by Matt Hagler.
That's funny. As you say that, I'm visualizing it's actually on 77. 77. I was going to have a sign.
All right, let's do it.
That's the one.
Let's do it.
That's right. We'll have to talk about that one offline.
That's my nugget for you today.
That's right. That's right. No, we did put our sign up on 77 recently at Woodlawn. So yeah, that's one place to see it right now is on 77.
All right.
But that's kind of my advice as to which direction I would go
Yeah.
for now is an investment class.
Can you talk about flex warehouse space? Like, I love that asset type. How far out from like uptown are you willing to look at?
Me personally, I think anything within an hour drive of Charlotte is
Okay.
probably still a good investment. The closer into town, the better off you
Sure.
are. And there's still parts of town where there's still some opportunities.
Yeah.
What about intersection-wise? You want to be close to a major thoroughfare too, like an 85 or 77 or 45.
For flex space, yeah, you don't want to be too far from a highway. I mean, once you've gone 20 miles off the highway, you're probably looking for the wrong asset class there. If that's what you want to invest in, you do need to be close to thoroughfares. Doesn't have to be on a main road, but you certainly have to be close enough to get there within 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, easy enough.
Easy enough. Yep. So yeah, I think that would be great. Flex space. I think there's still an opportunity here for flex space. I've got a few locations that I can think of. Independence and 45. There's still a little bit of opportunity there. I think on the west side, there's still opportunity there where you can get some good deals. You just got to be willing to go into areas that are not at the corner of Main and Main.
Sure.
And get the better prices right now. That's what I would be going after.
What's the ideal unit square footage for something you would invest in?
Yeah.
If you were going to build it, let's say, what would you break down the square footage for each space?
I would think I'd love to have a 10,000 square foot building where I could take it down into 2,000, 2,500 square feet all the way down. Get two 2,500 square foot units on each side of the building. That's the good thing about flex space. It could be a 10,000 square foot user, or you could cut it up and have the 2,000 square foot users that you're looking for. So
Right.
I wouldn't go too big. There's bigger ones out there. They can go to the national type properties for that. I think if you can even find a piece of land and build it cheaply right now.
Yeah, that's my theory. Is I'd like to build some more of those this year.
Yeah, I just sold a little piece of dirt off North Trine Street. It was very, very affordable. It was probably between Sugar Creek and Eastway, and guy just needed it for his own use, and bought a little patch and threw up his own building. You can build it for $50 a square foot, maybe.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great way to get into real estate. If you build it and tenant it yourself, you've just got yourself a great education.
You can't lose on that deal. That's a no-lose situation when you're gonna, own or occupy it.
That's right.
Plus, your lending. Geez, your lending is minimal.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
you get the best rates.
You do.
Owner occupying commercial real estate.
That's that. Anytime you talk to a lender, what do you like the best? And every single time it's owner occupied.
Owner occupied.
What do you specialize in? Owner occupied. Is there anything else you can specialize in?
Yeah, that's their first question. If you call them for a loan, is it owner occupied?
Yeah, it's got to be at least 51% owner occupied
Right.
every time. So yeah, and obviously it's important. We didn't touch on it much, but having a good lender in place as well. I have some good friends in lending that have gone along. They've helped me out along the way for sure.
We had a great one on the earlier podcast, actually.
All right.
Yeah, he was a generalist. When you started out, you said, I'm a generalist for real estate, and that's what he prides himself on. He has. It's rare to see that flexibility in a commercial banker too, where they don't just do owner occupied commercial real estate, or they only do industrial or hospitality.
Yep. I would have to say I'm going to have to get his number from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to I'll have to share a database with you.
Yeah, let's open those Rolodexes.
Let's open those Rolodexes. I have one guy on my team. He keeps telling me, why don't you just give me your Rolodex? I'm like, sure, here it is. He's not going to know how to read any of it, but he can have it.
Yeah, Jim may not know what a Rolodex is. So I have
Before
to
my
tell him.
time. I think I saw it in a movie, like Glengarry Ross or something.
Well, I can share it with you. I'm that old now. Finally. You guys have been great. I appreciate you guys having me on. And
we'll wrap it up. This has been a lot of fun. And can you talk to folks about how they can get a hold of you if they want to reach out to you?
Sure. For better for worse, you can Google Matthew Hagler, but my direct contact number is 704-408-8867. Again, 704-408-8867. And my email address is mhagler, MHAGLER, at kwcommercial.com. So
All right.
hopefully that makes it easy.
And we have a website we can check out for you, for your team, or for the business.
Sure. I would have to.
He's going to his
The
pocket
Rolodex.
for this. Yeah, he's going to his
I
Rolodex.
need my Rolodex in order to do that. Yeah, we're at www.kwcommercial, BAMC at .kw.com.
Okay.
So I'll do that again. www.kwcommercial, BAMC.kw.com.
All right, cool.
Perfect. And we'll have all of your contact info in the show notes in case anyone wants to click it.
Very good. Well, I appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. And hope to be doing some more deals with you very soon.
Counting on it.
Likewise.
All right.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Who Knows Real Estate. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and check out our show notes for the guest contact info as well as ours. Be sure to look for our next episode. Thanks.